Welcome to the channel. It's truly great to have you here. Today, we're diving into a story that might just change how you view love, life, and second chances. But before we begin, I'd love to know, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below, and let's see how far this message reaches. If you're new here, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell. We've got something truly special coming your way tomorrow. Trust me, you won't want to miss it. Now let's get into today's story. 5 shocking truths about remarrying after 60 you haven't been told. Truth number 1. Remarriage can dramatically impact your finances. When you think about getting remarried after 60, your heart might focus on companionship, connection, and finding love again. And that's a beautiful thing. But what many people overlook, until it's too late, is how much remarriage can change your financial world. This isn't just about joining lives. It's also about merging money, responsibilities, and legal obligations in ways that can be surprisingly complex. Let's start with something most people don't expect. Remarriage can affect your Social Security benefits. If you're receiving benefits based on a former spouse's record, those payments could be reduced or even eliminated once you remarry. For many, that monthly check is essential. Losing it could impact your ability to cover everyday expenses or maintain the lifestyle you've worked hard to build. Pensions and survivor benefits can also change. Some pension plans have strict rules about remarriage. What you or your late spouse planned decades ago may no longer apply, especially if the paperwork hasn't been updated. The same goes for life insurance policies, beneficiary designations, and even tax status. One signature on a marriage certificate could affect everything from your healthcare costs to your estate distribution. And then there's the reality of shared finances. Even if you and your new spouse plan to keep separate bank accounts, the law may not recognize that separation. In many states, assets and debts acquired during marriage are considered shared property. That means your partner's financial habits, credit history, or debt could suddenly affect your own financial future. If you have children or grandchildren, this gets even more sensitive. You may intend for them to inherit your assets one day. But without proper planning, remarriage could give your new spouse legal claim to some or even most of your estate. That's not because anyone has bad intentions. It's just how the law works. Take the time to speak with a financial advisor or estate planner. These conversations might not feel romantic, but they are crucial. Remarriage after 60 isn't just about love. It's also about protecting your peace of mind, your legacy, and the people who matter most to you. When your heart is ready, make sure your finances are too. Truth number 2. Family dynamics become more complicated than you think. After sorting through the financial realities of remarriage, there's another challenge that catches many people off guard. Family dynamics. When you remarry after 60, you're not just blending two lives. You're blending decades of history, relationships, and emotions. And while love may bring the two of you together, it doesn't always bring your families along for the ride. Unlike younger couples starting fresh, older adults often bring adult children, grandchildren, and long-standing traditions into a new marriage. And those family members? They may have strong opinions, unspoken fears, or emotional ties to your previous spouse. Even if your children say they support your happiness, deep down, they may worry about inheritance, family roles, or whether this new partner will change everything they've grown used to. It can get tense quickly. Some children might be openly warm and welcoming. Others might seem distant, suspicious, or protective. And it's not always about money. Sometimes it's about grief, loyalty, or a fear of being pushed aside. Grandchildren may be confused. Your new spouse's family might have expectations of their own. Suddenly, holidays feel different. Long-standing routines feel disrupted. And something as simple as deciding where to spend Thanksgiving turns into an emotional minefield. Let's not forget that remarriage can bring legal changes that directly affect your family. If your new spouse becomes your legal next of kin, they may have more say in your care or estate than your children do. That's a tough pill to swallow, especially if these things haven't been talked about ahead of time. Your loved ones may not say it out loud, but they're thinking it. What does this mean for me? For our family? Take Susan, for example. At 68, she remarried a man she deeply loved. But almost overnight, she found herself in uncomfortable conversations with her adult children. They asked questions about the house, the will, family heirlooms, even where she would live. Susan realized that in order to protect her family bonds, she had to be open, patient, and clear about what would and wouldn't change. If you're considering remarriage, don't skip this part. Talk with your family. Listen to their concerns. Set expectations early, because love is powerful, but communication is what holds families together. Truth number 3: emotional expectations are very different later in life. After navigating financial realities and the complexities of family dynamics, there's yet another layer to consider: your emotional expectations. At this stage in life, love doesn't look the way it did when you were in your 20s or 30s. It's deeper, quieter, more reflective. And if you go into remarriage expecting it to feel the same as before, you might find yourself confused, disappointed, or even overwhelmed. In your younger years, marriage often came with shared goals: building a home, raising children, chasing careers. But after 60, life has already been built. You've carved out routines, developed independence, and learned how to enjoy solitude. A new partner, no matter how wonderful, is stepping into a well-established world. That transition can be beautiful, but also jarring. This is especially true if you're still emotionally tied to a late spouse or recovering from a painful divorce. Those feelings don't vanish when a new relationship begins. Instead, they live alongside your new love, sometimes silently shaping how you communicate, trust, or express affection. And your partner likely brings their own emotional history too. You're not starting from zero, you're blending two entire lives. And here's where it gets tricky. One person might crave constant togetherness, while the other values personal space. One may be emotionally open, while the other is more reserved. Without clear communication, these differences can lead to tension. Not because the love isn't real, but because expectations were never aligned. Take Harold, for instance. At 75, he remarried after being widowed for several years. His first marriage had been filled with shared routines and emotional closeness. His new wife, having lived independently for over a decade, needed space, silence, and autonomy. Harold struggled with this at first. He took her distance personally. She felt smothered by his need for constant connection. It wasn't until they had an honest conversation about their emotional needs that they found balance. Before you remarry, ask yourself, what are you truly looking for in a relationship? Do you want daily companionship or occasional connection? Are you prepared to share your life without losing your identity? Emotional clarity is key, because after all the legal and family matters are sorted out, the heart still leads the way. Just make sure it's being honest with itself. Truth number 4: legal matters are more complicated than you think. Once you've worked through emotional expectations, it's easy to assume that love is enough to move forward. But before you say, I do, there's one more reality that many people overlook: the legal side of remarriage. And if you're over 60, those legal details can carry life-changing consequences. You might feel like it's unromantic to talk about paperwork, contracts, and legal rights when you're falling in love again. But here's the truth: marriage is not just an emotional bond, it's a legal agreement. And that agreement automatically changes how decisions are made about your assets, your health, and your legacy. Let's start with estate planning. When you remarry, your new spouse may automatically gain certain legal rights to your home, retirement funds, and personal belongings, even if you always intended for those things to go to your children or grandchildren. Without updating your will or setting up a trust, the law might divide your estate in ways you never expected. Medical decisions are another major concern. In most states, a spouse becomes your default decision maker in the event of a health crisis. That might sound reasonable, until you realize it could cause tension between your new spouse and your adult children if you haven't clearly spelled out your wishes. Something as simple as naming a medical power of attorney can prevent painful disagreements later. And then there's the topic no one wants to bring up: a prenuptial agreement. People tend to shy away from it because it feels cold or unromantic. But in reality, it's a tool for clarity and peace of mind. It allows both partners to protect the assets they've built over a lifetime and establish mutual understanding from the beginning. Take Eleanor, for example. She was 67 when she fell in love again. But unlike the first time she married, she had accumulated property, investments, and plans for her children's future. By creating a prenup and updating her legal documents, she was able to enter her second marriage with confidence, knowing her family was protected and her new relationship had a strong, honest foundation. Love in later life is a beautiful thing, but to protect it, you need more than just good intentions. You need a solid legal plan. Truth number 5. Your definition of happiness has likely changed. After navigating legal concerns and setting the foundation to protect your future, there's one final truth to face. Your definition of happiness may not be what it used to be. In your younger years, happiness in marriage might have meant building a life, raising children, or reaching financial goals together. But after 60, happiness often looks very different. And if you don't take the time to reflect on what it means for you now, remarriage could bring more stress than joy. You're not starting from scratch. You've built a life, developed routines, and found peace in your own rhythm. Maybe you enjoy your quiet mornings, your favorite chair by the window, or weekend visits with your grandkids. A new marriage, no matter how loving, can shift that balance. And if you're not emotionally prepared for those changes, the relationship may feel more like disruption than companionship. One of the most common mistakes people make is assuming that love will automatically fix loneliness. But companionship doesn't always equal fulfillment. If you're not happy on your own, placing that responsibility on someone else can create pressure and disappointment. True happiness in this stage of life comes from aligning your relationship with the lifestyle you've already built, not sacrificing it for someone else's expectations. You also have to think about lifestyle compatibility. You may love peaceful days at home while your partner wants to travel frequently. You may prefer solitude and reflection, while they crave social events and constant activity. These differences can be beautiful when respected, but frustrating when ignored. Take Frank, for example. At 72, he remarried a woman who was vibrant and full of energy. At first, he was excited by her spontaneity, but over time, he realized he missed his slower pace, his quiet nights, his predictable routine. He didn't regret falling in love, but he hadn't asked himself what happiness really meant to him at this point in life. So, before you walk down the aisle again, pause and reflect. Ask yourself honestly, what does happiness look like for me now? Do I want to share every moment or just the meaningful ones? There's no right or wrong answer, only what brings you peace, purpose, and joy. Because after everything you've built, you deserve nothing less. If you've made it to this point in the video, I want to thank you for taking the time to reflect on these important truths. Remarrying after 60 is a deeply personal decision, one that comes with layers of emotion, legal questions, family concerns, and the search for real happiness. Now, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever considered remarrying later in life? Are you currently in a second marriage or thinking about one? What challenges or surprises have you faced? Or what are you worried about? Your experience might help someone else who's watching and feeling unsure. So don't hesitate. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts, your fears, or even your advice. Let's make this a space where people can learn from one another, support each other, and feel understood. Also, let us know where you're watching from. It's always amazing to see how far these conversations can reach. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and turn on the notification bell. We have more helpful, honest, and inspiring videos coming your way soon. Thanks for being here, and we truly look forward to hearing your story.